Welcome to episode 245 of the Reptile Gumbo podcast, or waking up from nap time, as I'd like to call it right now.
Did y'all both wake up from the nap just now?
Well, so someone asked me to lay down next to them.
Did you really lay down long enough for me? I don't remember.
You asked me to lay down, and I laid down next to you and passed out.
Oh, no, I thought you got up. I dreamed that part.
You were like,
I stayed by me.
You're like, I set an alarm for 6:05 or whatever, and I was like, okay, cool. And then I wake up and it's like 6:30.
Oh no!
Like, I should probably get up.
I totally thought you had already gotten up.
No,
that's how out of it I was. I did not even know that someone other than my dog was in the bed with me because she was like curled up on my leg.
Glad to know where I sit. Way to go.
I was watching right before you hit the go button or whatever the live down. And I don't even. That's how much I know, guys. I don't even know what the button says that he clicks to do this podcast. I just realized I was like rocking in my seat, and I was like, man, I kind of look a little. I need to stop. I'm cold. I don't like it.
I got home from work at about 5 and did a couple things, and then went and was playing with Sheldon. Laying on the bed playing with him, and I like remember him like jumping on me while I was asleep, and me being like, "What the hell just happened?" And then, James texting me, "You gonna get on?" Like 10 minutes ago, and I was like, "Oh shit, yes."
Because I was downstairs, and I'm pretty sure you've asked me like 3 times if I'm getting up.
Yeah, at one point you're like, "I don't think I'm gonna do the podcast." I was like, "Well, I
don't remember this at all."
I have Nat beard too. See, it's like all.
I don't sleep well when we come back from a long break, like the night before we go back.
I sleep well at all times.
And so I didn't sleep well last night, and I didn't sleep well the night before that, before we had workshops. So like, I'm just tired, which is sad because I felt so great the last 2 weeks.
Robert couldn't relate to being off for 2 weeks, but Robert's been off for like 2 weeks.
I know.
Ish.
I am cold though, and I don't like it. This whole like get healthy and get your sugar levels where they need to be is for the birds. Yeah, because now I'm cold.
Just losing weight. I don't have the insulation.
Time.
I don't have the insulation I used to.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
I was never cold ever.
Yeah, and listen, before y'all start bitching, see anal side, you damn Canadians.
This has nothing to do with the actual weather outside and everything to do with the fact that I've been cold for the last month.
You down. You were loud today.
Sorry.
Stop yelling into the microphone.
Sorry.
If someone's gonna be angry, let it be me. I get that in Canada land it's cold up there, but y'all get cold like
or the people in like the middle of the country that are having that.
No, it went from 79 the other day to 30.
29.
29?
It would drop to 29.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a 40-degree change.
In like 15 hours. But no, I'm just cold all the time. It sucks. It did feel good in the sunshine at recess today, though. That was nice.
Yeah, see, anal side. I used to be built for the cold, and then I've lost like 60 pounds, and apparently all the 60 pounds I lost was keeping me warm fat and not just regular fat.
Me too. My feet are cold all the time.
That could be diabetic.
So weird.
That could be a diabetic thing.
It is because my sugars are finally. My doctor told me. She said when your sugars get to where they're supposed to be, you're gonna be cold all the time. Because that was one of the things that was,
It's funny hearing you say that because my grandma used to call diabetes the sugars. So when you say your sugars, it just sounds like what my grandma would say that somebody had the sugars.
Could you please not make a mess up? Let's move that.
I say that's water. Let's move.
This is all electronic.
A giant glass of water.
Let's move it away from all of the electronics.
Whoops.
I'm about to go get my giant cup of coffee here in a second. As soon as it's done.
Let's knock out sponsor stuff. Come on, Katie.
Right.
Lil's Shop of Horrors operates a commercial feeder breeder facility based out of San Antonio, Texas, and specializes in rats, mice, dubia roaches, Madagascar hissing cockroaches, and more. As feeder breeders, they focus on the nutritional needs of the animals that consume them. Nationwide shipping is available on live insects for frozen rodent shipments. Please reach out to check availability in your area. If you're looking to place an order, feel free to contact them through any of their social media web pages.
Stroke?
I'm so sorry. I read that wrong. I added words and I knew in my head I was wrong, but then I remembered we weren't recording this. We were live. I'm so sorry. Let's blame the nap. If you're looking to place an order, feel free to contact them through any of their social media pages at Lil's Shop of Horrors. Email them via their inquiries page at lilsshopofhorrors.com or reach out to them. LILS Shop of Horrors.
Yes. Reach out to them for all your feeder needs. Also, if you need any LED UVB bulbs, check out VivTech products and order your LED bulbs. Use code GUMBO22 to save 15% on your LED UVB bulbs, which will last you forever because we've been running these for it's 2025 now.
Mm-hmm.
We started the code in 22. So yeah, 3 years. We've been running these for 3 years. Do that with your little curly bulbs that screw up after like 5 months. Not gonna happen. So go get you a VivTech bulb. They'll last you for forever and still give off UVB after all this time too, unlike those little curly ones. So go check that out at VivTech, and again use code GUMBO22. Also, upcoming Herps shows. We are not going to this one because it's in the frozen north, or as I like to call it, Oklahoma.
Frozen north.
Oklahoma City, January 11th, January 12th. Feel free to go up there. Maybe Norm will be there. If you can see Norm, he'll get you some ketchup chips and some bagged milk or whatever that weird transplant Canadian will give you. Also, Longview, Texas, January 18th, January 19th. Conroe, Texas, January 25th, 26th. We will be there. I'll be there. Katie's never there anymore, apparently. It's just me by myself from now on.
I think I may actually be free that weekend.
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. But I will be there. Come see me in Conroe, Texas, on January 25th, 26th.
I just can't.
Were there words, or were you just? Nope. Okay.
No. I'm trying to think of like what I feel like there is something that weekend that I'm supposed to do.
Corpus Christi, Texas, February 1st and 2nd. Baton Rouge, Louisiana, March 1st, March 2nd. Bryan College Station, Texas, March 8th and March 9th. Then Rosenberg, Texas, which I don't get to be at because I got to be at a stupid wedding.
It's not a stupid wedding. We love them.
They're already married.
We're going to go celebrate.
Anyways, March 15th and March 16th is the Rosenberg show, which is my home show that I don't get to be at because
I think you get to go play golf that morning.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was trying to help.
We'll get to why I need to do some reptile shows soon. And then Slidell, Louisiana, April 5th, April 6th. I'll also be, I know it's not a Herb show, and sorry for the plug, but I'm going to be there. I'll be at the, and I know I've shit on the name all the time, but I'm got still snakes. I'll be at Repticon February 1st and February 2nd in Houston. So if anybody wants to come out and buy a snake, I've got some boas.
Which was like the best show I had in 2 years.
Yeah. I will be across from, and I'm shit you not, the gutter salesman. So I still shit on the show a little bit because I'm going to be across from a guy selling gutters all day.
That's funny.
But
I will be picking up cookies that weekend.
But I will be there with boas and Sam boas. And the other day I went to go clean some cages and I found 2 litters of Sam boas that I was not expecting. Now I know that I put males with them, so it's not like they just immaculately no.
That's right, guys. 2
it was 2 litters. But it was
2.
like 6 months ago on my records when I put them together. And 6 months is a long time. Like that's like rainbow boa like type litters.
How many babies do we have, James?
Well, James, that's when I walked up the stairs and heard you like going, "Would you guys just fuck already?"
Yeah.
That was how long ago that was.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. But with that said, one of my males that I've had forever that I spent way too much on years and years ago, who hadn't wanted to do anything for years, apparently finally did something.
Yeah.
And I got my first like real like Samboa morphs. I got Paradox Snow.
You got cool stuff.
I got Stripe Paradox Snow, Stripe Paradox Albino.
How many of these are we keeping?
At least one Paradox Snow.
At
stripe,
least one.
but probably
you
more.
had like 4 the other day that you wanted to keep.
It's probably possible. I got all these really cool Stripe Paradox Albino and Snow stuff. And Katie's like, I really like this one, Stripe Gannery. Like the fuck.
I mean, it's cool.
It's cool, but I mean,
I was asleep.
I've produced striped Gannerys.
It was New Year's, wasn't it? Because I was like, okay, I'm going to bed.
I think so.
And you were like, I gotta go feed snakes.
And then I have
that's the story of our life.
And then I ended up with a whole nother litter of just like Anneries and normals.
Our life consists of, hey, are you going to come to bed at a decent hour tonight? Oh, I got to
Well,
go feed snakes.
I mean, you got to define a decent hour.
Fucking snakes. A decent hour is like 11 p.m., James.
On whose clock?
The whole world.
I don't have that. 11 p.m. is still like time to do stuff.
Oh, wow.
Well, the night I had to stay up because I had to.
No.
stuff on 3D printing.
No. You did not have to stay up.
Yeah.
You chose to stay up and redo your
The 3D printer has
stuff.
to run 24/7, Katie.
It does not.
That's a rule.
Bring in Rob.
So let's go ahead and get to our guest, who I'm going to partially blame for.
Yes, I don't partially blame. I 100% blame.
You can also blame this, Rob, because
That is also
Yes.
I was the catalyst.
So our guest tonight is Rob Klockman of Raki-Taki. We had Rob on. It had to be what, 2 years now in Pearland.
Yeah.
So if anybody listened to that episode forever ago, and that was like kind of early-ish on, I guess, for you too, doing shows. When did you start doing shows? That was
my first show was first Herp show. The first reptile show was Herp's Corpus Christi. Oh shoot, the year before last.
Yeah.
So 22, yeah.
So Rob does 3D print. It feels cheap to say you do 3D printing, because it's probably, as a reptile person, it's the best reptile 3D printing models that exist.
Thank you.
And watching you go from then to now, also kind of jealous because you got to quit doing the job I want to quit doing. But it's been awesome, and it's fun to watch now because I'm in several Facebook groups and I keep seeing your models pop up, and I'm like, hey, I know whose model that is. So I guess for those that didn't listen to our show 2 years ago, and for me, who probably forgot everything I asked 2 years ago, guys, give us a short rundown of what you do and how you got to where you are now.
So how I got to where I am now, I was a teacher. I taught in Lamar School District, Richmond, Rosenberg, started teaching in Del Rio, moved to Houston. I now live out in far west Texas, and that's where I ended my teaching career. Finally convinced my wife to move out here. But I taught science and engineering technology. And, out here where I taught in Marfa, a little bitty school, 220 kids from K through 12. And to get them interested, I started utilizing 3D printing that I'd started using, but not near as much in Houston and Del Rio. So I did that, of course, school, no funding. So I did my first show to buy printer parts for the classroom, and did really well. These were none of my models. These were all licensed models, but none of my own. So I was like, oh, well, that was pretty good money for, a weekend. And then, got into another show and did it. And by the end of that first year, 2022, I started using up all my vacation days so that I could travel to the show. Cause I'm out in the middle of nowhere. Everywhere is a 9-10 hour drive. At that point, I'm used all my vacation days. I'm making at that point, as much as I was making teaching. And I came out with our first model, which was the Gila Monster. And that kind of drove me to do that, get better, work with my partner to develop a line of more, everything is cutesy. All the 3D printed models are cutesy. That's not what I wanted. I look at some of ours more of a cross between decoration and art,
Oh, absolutely.
To make it more realistic. And so we started coming out with, basically it would take us a month to get one done. And that was the first one.
Yeah, for those watching the video, here I put it up on the screen. That's not a real Gila monster, and it is a painted one from 3D printing, and it is freaking awesome.
So that was that. I started doing my models, and every model I came out with became one of our best sellers. And it just through last year, just really snowballed. And my dad got really sick at the end of 22. No, 23, end of 23. 23 was my first show, by the way. Yeah, because we're in 25 now. 23 was my first show, February 23. So I didn't. My dad got really sick, and I had to take a leave of absence and from school to help my mom and dad. And I continued to do the shows on the weekends. And at that point, I just decided it would be stupid to go back to teaching. Not gonna take a pay cut and have to deal with that anymore. So I after December of 23, I didn't go back to teaching and hit it hard last year and put 110,000 miles on my car.
Jeez.
And now I'm looking at slowing down the shows and doing more models.
I'm pulling up some of these are just so cool. I really like the Emerald Tree Boa. That one's an awesome one.
Yeah.
I gotta print some of these. And move. Okay. Anyways, I am jealous. The whole quitting teaching thing is the one I'm the most jealous. I don't care what I do, just quit teaching is on my list. But yeah, it's crazy. And you've recently taken this and moved to Patreon, because you said a lot of what you were originally doing were licensed stuff, and that's a lot of what I do. I do a lot of when I is licensed stuff, because look, I'm not artistic, but I can print stuff. So I have a lot of licensed things, and now you switched to kind of having your own Patreon and having your own licensed stuff out there.
And when I started doing really well, that was kind of in the mix. Hey, sooner or later, I'm going to start releasing these files. I mean, every weekend, everybody has a 3D printer. Everybody, where can I get this file? Where can I get this file? So once I built up a catalog enough, because like I said, I don't want to be rushed. I'm not big enough like Cinder Wings that has a whole team developing for her every month.
7 trillion dragons.
Yeah, well, that's because she's got a design team of about 10 people.
I printed one of her dragons for a customer, and I drastically undervalued how much I should charge for that customer. Yeah. It was the gingerbread one.
If you only listen to your friend.
Yeah, that was a nightmare. And then that customer,
you did it multicolor.
Yeah.
Oh, he did it.
Oh yeah, no, it looks great.
Holy crap.
And then that customer was like, I want another one. She's like, I want a smaller one, but I want another one. And I was like, I'm gonna have to tell her, I'm gonna have to charge her more than I was originally planning. Because
I find that's a big issue, is people undercharging and not valuing what they bring to a table with 3D printing. Because
what did I say today, James?
Yeah, the same thing. Well, so I'm gonna show off my most recent one. I'm proud of. This is not my design. This is a Flexi Factory design, but I painted it to look like a red-eyed tree frog.
I was going to say you've gotten a lot of enjoyment out of going in and painting the things and having them come out looking differently.
Yeah. So for those listening, when we say paint, I don't have any artistic ability in actually hand painting. I digitally painted into the computer and then printed. He is not even allowed
to help me paint the walls in our house. I can't do because it is so bad.
But yeah, I was talking to Rob. I was like, how much should I charge for this? Because my problem is, like, I don't know. I don't want to, with this, I don't want to have the same things that everybody has on the tables. I'm going to with a lot of stuff. I know I'm going, because a lot of things just sell. Like, look, having dragons sell. Like, it'd be stupid to be at, because Robert and I've started doing craft shows and farmers markets, and if you don't have dragons and eggs, that's just dumb. Those things sell. But I like being able to color this frog and make it look different than just printing a green Flexi Factory frog that someone else has. Thanks, Timothy. I was super proud of the frog. I had to print it twice because I fucked up the first one. I have 2 like 1/3 bodies of frogs printed in the other room.
I see somebody's asking how big is the small and large options on which item on which item.
Tegu.
The Tegu. Hold on one second.
Yeah, and I'm telling you the Gila monster. The first time I saw the Gila monster, that thing is amazing. The lace monitors are not my thing, but the lace monitor is a cool looking one.
There's where are we going?
There we go.
There's the large, so about 24 inches.
Yeah, like a young pig size.
And then the small is like that size.
See, I need to get that. I need to print a smaller one, but paint it the green and black like the actual baby tegus, and then put it with the big one.
Yeah, the only problem is you already got the jowls.
That's true. Well, he's mature for his age. So what got you into 3D printing originally? Was it just because you in teaching, or were you? Or
engineering teacher. Yeah.
So there wasn't like something outside of teaching where you're like, I want to do this.
No. But when I got into it, it was before Prusa's came out. There was no Crealities. There were no anything. It was all Stratasys. I don't know if you follow 3D printing news with their suit of bamboo. Stratasys held the patents to where no company could make a 3D printer. So nice. when we started, we built them. It was it's called Rip Wrap, and it was kind of where the you might see a lot of people, you should design something that should be free, because that's how the 3D printing community started. So yeah, I started way back when it was piecing things together, just building and getting terrible prints.
Well, that's one thing I know that I'm spoiled at getting into the hobby now. And I don't think a lot of people, so it's kind of like the reptile hobby, right? I've been in the reptile hobby since 2000, and I've watched it go from building everything yourself to all these racks and cages and heating things, and everything is now designed. You can buy it and plug it in, and it's so much easier. Or these snakes that used to, like ball pythons, where people used to have to force feed these damn things to keep them alive, and now people can breed them in a shoebox in a closet, no problem. And so to watch that growth, and it's kind of the same thing you're saying, I'm sure, with 3D printing, because I know at one point 3D printing was building all your stuff, and that would not have interested me, because that part of it is not me. I like the printing and get the final thing. I have a small attention span, so I know I'm spoiled now, especially with the bamboo, because like it is out of the box plug in, and you can start printing stuff
for a while. Yes. Then the problems start happening.
Yes. Yeah, I know. I'll have to figure out how to fix things here and there, or replace parts.
But they are definitely they definitely changed the game in 3D printing for out of the box experience.
Yeah, it's also great because it's just they've made a consumer product that looks like a consumer. Like, it doesn't look like some guy in his basement built a machine, where a lot of them still kind of had that look of the bed slinger look, or the you had to have space. It looked like an erector set with a 3D printing head on it.
Yeah.
And so it's really nice having that. Even Robert, you got those little Flash Forges, which are awesome little versions too.
Yeah, Flash Forge has been a staple, especially in education, for quite some time. They used to be only education, so they made pretty dependable printers for quite some time now. And then with the last couple generations, they've really got on Amazon and done, and they're good printers.
I've been very happy with mine. I've got, I don't know, a ton of, but 386 hours on my newer one, which is not a lot, but the other one I've got over 1,000 hours on it. Knock on wood, not one problem yet. Shouldn't have said that.
Not going to tell tonight. Good job. Way to go.
We spent the last week maintaining all our printers, and we have 32 bamboos. And whenever you maintenance, it's always a headache afterwards getting everything tuned again. And so we've had a lot of failures getting everything back tuned and going again. But our bamboos have between 7,000 and 12,000 hours on them.
Are you running A1s?
I have just 8 of those.
So mostly P1Ss or P1Ps?
P1Ps. For what we do, there's no reason to spend the extra money on the enclosure and all that. So mainly P1Ps. and then the Prusas, and then I still have a few of my Vorons and rat rigs that we built that I run. And then I have a Cheetah XMAX 3, and then I tried they sent it to me, an FL Sun S1.
That tall
one of those, the tall Delta printers.
Yeah.
Oh man, that thing is fast.
It's we saw one at Micro Center. It's a weird watching the 3 arms on that
Yeah,
thing move it around.
So this one right here, I'll show you. Oops.
Just hear plastic.
So I mean, you can't print this size on a bamboo, but on my Prusas, this is about a 20-hour print. The FL Sun prints this in 13 hours.
Oh damn!
And it's 30 inches. So yeah, it's fast when it wants to work.
So that's still a single color, right?
Yeah, that's a single color.
Yeah, I'm spoiled with having the AMS and being able to do multicolors. It's just I have to get. It just sucks when it's like this will take 2 days, and I have to debate: do I want to take 2 days to do this right now, or do something else?
You want to get spoiled, save up, and get a Prusa XL. That will spoil you.
So I saw we went to a guy's house 2 weeks ago now or so, Robert and I, and he had one. I was surprised at. I don't know. I guess I thought it was still cool, but I thought it was gonna be more consumer friendly than 3D printer type. Like, I don't mean that it wasn't. It's just not.
It's not a bamboo. Yeah. But I have had less problems with those, and when I can print, with no waste, that's the game changer. And I mean, I can print 2 of our 100% gaboons in full color in less than a day.
Okay.
Yeah, and
That's
so
cool.
Literally have 0 waste.
Well, you do have a purge tower. You got to purge, but if a bamboo, because now I've got to slice and kind of tell people, because that's what most people have. I got to tell them, what they're looking at. 2 of the gaboons. On the bamboo, you can only get 1 of the gaboons. So 1 of the gaboons is right at 16 hours, and takes about 360 grams, I want to say, with the waste from the bamboo.
Gotcha.
With the Prusa, one of them is probably closer to the actual. It's probably right at 200 grams. So I'm saving almost 100 grams, of filament per print.
Are you running the suggested like 1.0 on the purge, or are you turning down the amount of purge?
I turned the purge on the bamboos.
Yeah.
I have it, unless it's black and white, they're normally at 50%.
Okay, yeah, I was running at 60, 65, yeah.
Yeah, unless it's black and white.
So Timothy, when you said do you have to put each section together, or is it printed in one thing like the gaboon? That's all printed in one thing.
No. Hold on. I'll show you. So the body is one piece. The body is one piece. Because the mouth opens, the top of the head's one piece, the jaw's one piece, and then of course each fang is one piece.
I meant to say the body, because that is one thing since we've been selling things at shows like dragons and stuff. People are always amazed when they pick up any dragon or any bendy like snake or anything like that prints in one piece. And it is amazing that these articulated things can print in one piece and don't just melt together as one giant glob of plastic on a plate.
Have a fan go out.
Stop that. Stop saying negative stuff.
Have your cooling fan go out. I have somebody who's actually a Patreon, and I've known her boyfriend for a long time because he's a herper, and she's been working for us, and she forgot to plug in the fan of the tool head of one of the bamboos, and come in and like, why is it? It's what happens when the fan's not on.
So this may be a dumb question.
Go for it.
Do you have reptiles?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I asked James in the car earlier. I'm like, does he actually own reptiles? Because I've only ever talked to him about 3D stuff or school.
So my reptile history. I actually went to University of Florida to study monitors under who was at Offenburg back then. That was at University of Florida. I worked for
originally the only school with a herpetology program.
Yeah. I originally, or when I lived in Florida for a short time, He's an old timer. I don't know if you know the name Eugene Bassett,
Yes.
but I worked for Eugene doing his. I never got to do the green tree pythons.
I'm about to say you got the green tree models. He would have to love those.
Yeah. No, I got stuck doing the Burmese. This was back when Burmese were big, popular, and so I took care of Burmese there for a short time. I quit keeping reptiles after I left Florida because I didn't want to spend the time taking care of animals. My true love, the reason I became a teacher was herping. I like going out and looking for reptiles.
That's cool.
That's why I live here. Herping and gray-banded king snakes have ruled my life decisions. When we got married, my wife and I got married. It was in Del Rio in the winter, so it didn't interfere with herping season. Vacations, she knows not to ask me to go anywhere between May and September, because I'll probably tell her no, it's herping season. So yeah, I quit keeping reptiles to herp. Now, good friends from across the country, we go different areas, Arizona, Utah, we go herping. When I started doing shows, I did not buy any reptiles. My wife got blue tongues and bearded dragons. My son got a pair of boas. My daughter got dart frogs. And then this year I said, well, screw it. If they're going to buy stuff, I got a pair of beaded lizards.
Nice.
I mean, no big deal. Just a pair of beaded lizards.
They were a good deal.
Well, I figure it's got to take a reptile person to know the designs of the reptiles that you've done, how realistic it is. It takes someone that knows what looking. Now, I'm surprised you say you like gray band so much and you haven't done a gray band of some sort.
Believe me, my friends are harassing me. There's a reason, and that's because I have to do. While a gray band is iconic to a small subset of people, it's still a colubrid, and there's nothing special about them.
It said it here. Colubrids are not special. There we go.
No. To the general public, to anybody that does not have a discerning taste and understand that Alterna are the best snake that ever graced the world.
The problem is, what color do you make it? What pattern do you give it? How much red? How much?
That's great. I got paint jobs for days. I can make it like a Davis Mountain, make it like a River Road, make it like a Christmas. I can take some of my. I can take some of my favorite ones I found and do paint jobs. And eventually I'll do it. But I've got to knock out the things like the Tokay gecko and the and the
blue tongue will be a good one.
I got a blue tongue.
Do you? Okay, that's what I thought. I was like, he's got to have one.
Yeah, we got a blue tongue. Blue tongue? We got a Euromastic.
I like the horn lizard. The little horn lizard is great.
Yeah, that was the second one.
Kyle wants to know your favorite locale of gray band.
Single locale. If I could herp one spot, would either be the river or Christmas.
Weird ass gray band people.
And not that's maybe a 50, just under an hour drive from my house.
See, so. I can never get into, especially gray bands. I'm not anal enough to be like, yeah, it came from this side of the road next to this cactus and it's this kind. But if it came next to that rock on the other side of the road, it's this kind. I can't.
So that's what makes them great. And just never know what you're going to find. And then also spending hours and hours and days to find one. Luckily, I found one last year. The year before, I didn't get bad weather the past 2 years, but I didn't find one the year before. But
I like Christina's suggestion. Yeah, emerald tree skinks would be an awesome little one.
Problem I want to do a green tree monitor because that's one of the next reptiles I want to do. When you get into those long, skinny tails, there's a durability issue. And figuring that out, that to make it a tail good like a tree skink, because they do have the longer tails of the green tree monitor, but to make it durable so that I don't get yelled at 10 times a day, oh, this breaks too easy, and things like that. It's a hang up on some of the really fine, like a Prasina, the vine snakes. I'd love to do that, but it's just too.
Just do a long piece of TPU.
Yeah, no TPU for me, thank you.
Yeah, I've seen like some people do dragons that get very skinny towards the end, and you look at them, you're like, man, if a kid plays with this, they're just gonna snap these pieces off.
Yeah. So that's that's a lot of things when we're picking the reptiles to do. It's got to be an iconic. It's got to be something distinctive about it. It's got to be doable. With things like tails, or I get a lot of requests to do a frilled dragon. Well, I would love to do a frilled dragon when I can figure out how to. I'm not going to do it. Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to do a frilled dragon until I can figure out how to get it to spread its neck.
Yeah, that's a tricky one.
And I'm thinking about. Have you ever seen people print on fabric?
Well, I actually showed that to Katie the other day because someone had posted,
like
a little thing they did on fabric.
So now this is an application that I could see being beneficial.
I'm
trying to figure out what's the point.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Is use the fabric 3D printing. To do the membrane in between. And of course, it would take more assembly than just snapping a head on. But
you need like a little umbrella thing on it, so when you push up, it flares out, and you pull it down, it comes down.
A little switch on the back, a little trigger on the back. Yeah, but that's nowhere close to being done. But that's how the process goes. It's like, hey, how can I do this reptile? And then someday, it's like, oh, what if we try this? So when I get time, I'll start printing on fabric because I've never done it before, and see how it goes.
It looks interesting. I saw someone post, and I just showed that to Katie like yesterday. I was like, I don't know what I would do with this yet, but it looks interesting to try.
The first time I saw it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, and people just did chainmail that way.
Yeah.
For cosplay and stuff like that.
So people do like dragon scales, like for cosplay, like sleeves and all that way.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Nakia asked, do people play with them? She says hers just sits on top of her enclosure. Then play with it, Nakia.
I tell people, if somebody knows how to print, if you take it and you sling it around like a rope, it's going to break. But if you're handling it and playing with it, it should not break. It's just, are they breakable if you start swinging them? Yes, but fidget with them all the time. I'm sitting here playing with a.
Oh, you said you broke this one, James.
Well, it's not broken off, but I was stress testing the legs.
I was going to say James was stress testing. Where did it?
It's the actual part that holds the leg on that little bar on that model. Yeah, which is not one of Rob's. Anybody out there listening? It's not one. It's a random one I found.
That's the one. No, I use for my frog. I use cinder wings.
Oh, this was a little alligator.
Oh, the alligator. Okay.
It's a cute little alligator.
Yeah, I think I just got to print it.
He printed me an army of cardinals the other day because there were 34 cardinals on the plate.
34, 35.
I don't know.
There's a lot of cardinals.
They're only like an inch tall.
Yeah, she's like, I want to give these to my family. I was like, okay. So I printed an entire tray of cardinals.
It's awesome.
Yeah, no, I think I'm going to print, if I print this, it'll be with more infill.
This would be a super cute earring. Not that big, obviously, but like hang it.
That is one thing I've started trying to do is design earrings.
It from the mouth so that it looks like it's biting your ear.
Okay, I don't have that kind of skill. I can do it however.
Put the little hook on this side.
Oh, I'm glad you think it's so much easier.
I don't know how it works.
That's
your job.
That is what I am trying to figure out right now is design. I'm trying to figure out how to design. So I've got what I really have some ideas for are being a teacher, some biology related 3D printable stuff.
James is all about functionality.
That was my goal, was with this 3D printer was functionality. But I was like, all right, well, I got to print these non-functionality things to sell so I can make some money first, pay back for the machine, and then I can work on trying to design some of the functional stuff.
Which is why he's doing a show on the 1st to sell some snakes.
I sell snakes. Darren says, what are some of your prices and what is the average turnover time? Like how long it takes, I assume, to make them. It depends on the size and the color changes, but
yeah.
That gingerbread dragon was 35 hours.
Yeah. How much? Just curious. Do you know about how many grams it was?
I don't even remember. I'm trying to block out most of that because
it was the gingerbread color. It was white and it had green and red gumdrops.
And it fucked up.
I know which dragon. Yeah. I don't.
Pretty.
And it messed up the first time and got about halfway through and I had to start over again.
Yep. So what are some of the prices? So on our designs for the files, if you want to print them yourself, they're either $3.99 for the file, or you join Patreon and you get exclusives like exclusive paint jobs, or
That's the best option. Join the Patreon.
yeah, or the My Mini Factory. I prefer My Mini Factory. I don't know why so many do Patreon, but My Mini Factory, Tribes, or Patreon, and the files are $3.99 to print yourself. Or as a member, you get at least three files every month, and plus a welcome pack and that. What I sell them for retail, my standard size lizards. So this is the Tegu in the standard color, standard size. Those are going to be $25. My standard size snakes are $35. Multicolored, of course, they go up. And then I have a range of $5 and $10 stuff too. I'll show one of our.
Yeah, if you're getting something that is in realistic colors, it's going to be higher.
This is something we branched out once we started the Patreon. These are the little chibi ones, and this is a little chibi Gaboon Viper, and this will be a $5 size, and I print these on the A1. It does have a few color changes, but a full plate of them prints quick enough that I put those at $5.
So you're doing printed eyes on those?
Yeah, so that's multicolor eyes, and then the horn is white.
Oh, yeah.
But there's not many color changes because it's only a small section. So I think a plate of these prints in about 12 or 13 hours, a whole plate. And that's some of the chibi ones that we do that are the lower cost ones.
That's cute. Sorry, I just got an email from our maintenance portal that said our fence repair has been canceled.
No.
I'm like, the fuck? It is zip tied together and my gate is ratchet strapped shut. And that request was put in
when the hurricane
came through at 1 a.m. when the fence went down.
So Darren,
sorry.
Go check out raki-taki.com and go to like all the real estate. He's got all of his stuff on there.
How have we not posted his page on our Facebook?
Because I haven't posted my. I will, but
I'll do it.
Okay, Katie's gonna post it on our Facebook, and you can go there and check out all the prices on everything, and all the different sizes and all the models and all. So that way we don't have to do a breakdown of the prices of everything.
Yeah, and I don't know, like I said, this file business takes over, I'll be doing far less shows and have somebody else taking over the retail part of it. But yeah, right now you can go to Raki-Taki.com and check out most of the files. I don't think I've gotten a few of my latest designs up there yet, but they'll be up there soon.
Yeah, it's got to be nice to sell files and monthly subscriptions and not have to print stuff. Like you're still printing, but be able to cut down on printing stuff. Like here is a digital file which I made, and now I get to resell it again and again and again. Yeah,
I mean it's a residual income, which is nice. There are a bunch of headaches that I didn't know were going to be a part of it. Requests that are. I'm not saying requests. I get a lot of requests, and I think we were talking before it started. I get a request. Hey, can you do this to this model? Can you do that to this model? And I get 10 of them a day. And it's like I can't. If you want new models, I can't go back and that's. I talked to the Flexi Factory. The guy who owns Flexi and does Flexi Factory, and that's the one advice. He's like, design them for yourself. And understand that you're not going to be able to please everybody with the designs, because it's just so many changes, little changes that make I can't. I told people on the Patreon all the designs you're getting, I have printed over a year. I've printed at least 500 to 1,000 of each one in a production setting where I'm putting 40 of them, 50 of them together at a time. And so, I did it. I did these for me, for my quick production, for the stability. Like people ask, well, why do you have to glue the head on? Why isn't it just a pop socket? I'm like, pop sockets get loose for one, eventually,
It can be a nightmare sometimes, depending on what size you sized it up to.
Yes, they can be. Exactly. When I do that Gaboon, 30 inches, getting the fang on, is a bitch.
I
you know?
did. So you know the tardigrade. I did the
Mhm.
tardigrade for my daughter for Christmas, and
Mhm.
it's probably with head on
It's
like
gig-
13 inches long.
It's gigantic.
And putting that head on the body was
Mhm.
the most stressful thing I think I've done, because it doesn't want to go on, and every crack you hear, you're like, God, please don't break. I spent so long printing this thing.
Yeah, and that's why most of my designs now have pegs, straight pegs. You have to use glue, but I know it's not coming apart then. And I use 3D glue. I don't use super glue very often. I use 3D glue, so I know it's not coming apart. I can put them together quickly. My mom, my 79-year-old mom, can come in if I need help to put stuff together,
Yeah.
where she's not having to fight those things and twist them and get them on. So that's why I designed my connectors the way they are. But yeah, it can be a nightmare.
I need to get some of that I use super glue on some things right now, but if I'm super gluing anything, it's like an eyeball here or there.
Mhm.
But I need to get some of that 3D glue. I've seen a lot of people talk really good things about that.
Yeah. I mean, it does go bad, and if it's expensive.
Yeah.
But a little bit of it, we can go through a bottle. And normally by the time we get to the bottom of the, it's getting a little thicker than we like, but yeah, it glues it well together. It doesn't glue it together.
And see, it's funny you mentioned Flexi Factory and throwing out ideas, because I've definitely sent him a couple of ideas. Well, one thing he does, that he did a model this year that's probably my favorite thing I print, and it's his Nutcracker. I freaking love the Nutcracker. I'm just a big fan of him in general, but that one is fun because what I like to do when we do shows is I do a build your own Nutcracker. I printed them at like 50% and have all the pieces, and kids get to come up and pick all the arms and legs and colors and put it together. I was like, more models like that I could sell at a show, not put together, but it's an experience for the kids. Just put it together. I was like, would be awesome. Just random generic monsters where they can just choose legs and arms and make it look however they want. And they really like and Robert's been there when I do. They really like the Nutcracker, the little Nutcracker thing.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
That's a fun one because it's so much different than, look, everybody sells a dragon. Like, it's just because they sell. But that's why I like when you walk by your table and people stop, you realize that like your models don't look like anybody else's models. And that's really cool to see because, you go by. Well, now that Robert and I are in this and we do this, we go by 3D tables and like, yep, that's so and so's model, and that's so and so's model, and that's so and so. Like, it's
you do start to recognize, and you start recognizing those ones that are on the front page of Maker World, and you start seeing them on tables.
Yeah,
that is true. Well, then I see some of them and I'm like, you're right on the pricing, because you'll see pricing on some of them. You're like, it needs. Why are you pricing it so low? Like, you'll look at like Toons Factory does some really cool, but they're all multicolor stuff, and I'll see that on people's tables. I'm like, that needs to cost more because I know how long it took you to print that in multicolor.
That's you're going to see that more and more because people get a printer and they're not looking at it as a business. They're looking at, I'm going to, they're happy if they walk out of there with $150, $200 cash, and then not realizing it took them $175 in filament and time and electricity to make it, but they're happy with it. They can go buy $200 more filament.
You just explained the reptile business, the
reptile
hobby. Like, that is,
believe me, it's, I'm not gonna badmouth any reptiles, but yeah, it's 3D printing.
Just say it's ball pythons.
That's not where I was going, but but it's low entry. It's not hard to get started these days.
Yes, that's true.
But for example, let's take ball pythons. To have a ball python clutch of just a single gene or whatever, and then up here, Bob's balls. There's a big difference, and this guy down here is not making any money. His rat and electricity bills is not covering it. This guy up here is taking care of it, and some people just don't look at it that way to make sure they're getting covered. They're just having fun doing it, which is that's fair. That's no problem with that.
It's funny now watching how many people get into. So I'm going to see the same thing in this hobby that I see in reptiles. There's a ton of people right now getting printers, just crap tons. Look, go to Micro Center any day and watch how many printers walk out of Micro Center. But then look in 2 months and see how many of those people are actually using their printer. And it's not just sitting in a corner. And look on Facebook at how many printers are for sale because people aren't using them.
Yeah.
So it'll come and go. You just, if you want to do this as a hobby and as a money making hobby or as a job, you just got to stick with it because a lot of the people are not going to stick with it.
No. They are not. And there's half of them that are going to get their first bed adhesion issues and not going to be able to get it squared away, and they're just going to put it in the corner and screw this. I'm tired of wasting my time and my money.
I'm waiting until about March, and I'm gonna be buying machines like crazy off Facebook Marketplace.
Yep. Well, I might have some they're gonna have a lot of hours, but I might have some for sale as I can deliver them to shows. But yeah, I mean that's one reason that got me in to go ahead and start releasing my models. Is that I don't want to have to drive 100,000 miles and compete against the people who are at their local show. I've driven halfway across the country, or across the country. I made one drive from Sacramento, California to Daytona, Florida this year in 1 week. I don't want to compete against those people. So I've
got to imagine at a reptile show nowadays with your Gila and your monitors and your emeralds, that setup at a show, even at a big show, has got to do so much better than those other guys. Because
but that's the thing, yeah. And I'm kind of curious. So this is my first show of the year coming up this weekend at Pomona, and at Pomona there's normally 10 other 3D printers, but I don't know if you've ever been to Pomona. It's 3 football fields long.
Yeah, I knew it was long.
Yeah, and so I'm kind of curious to how sales are going to go this week, because there are going to be other people with my models now. Not all my models,
that is
because I'm time releasing them. So I kind of had to really think, okay, because this is going to hurt retail sales for a while, until I can build up enough Patreons and members and file sales to offset the sales going down, because other people have, our models are not as special anymore.
But how many of those people are going to truly print the Gila properly or the Gaboon color-wise properly?
I am surprised. Because I mean, honestly, that's not the moneymaker. I use the big Gaboon to get people in. I use the small multicolor. I'll sell a couple of them, but my tricolor silk Gaboons, I'll sell 20 a weekend.
Yeah. So I can never pronounce the Zood or Zode or whatever it is. Zoud. Okay.
Oh, you were on both counts.
I knew I would be. But I like this, but I kind of took your advice when I print those. I bought a bunch of rainbow filaments, and I'm like, kids like colors. And so they're in the pretty silk rainbow colors, and I don't do a ton of them in the painted the way it's supposed to look. I'm gonna do a few here or there, but I have a painted stuff for bigger things.
Yep. And I like I said, I mean, I have AMSs just for about all my bamboos. The only ones I use the AMS on for multicolor are the A1s. All my other AMSs just have a tricolor silk, a white, and a black. So when I need to print fangs or I need to print something in white, I don't have to go load it. There's no multicolor prints that are done on the P1s. It's all the Prusas and the 8 A1s.
The other thing I think that is great in your model with the Patreon and with the manufacturing and all is we talked about people coming in and out of the hobby, and it's going to happen a lot. And they're going to get on, they're going to be, what can I print? And they're going to see your models in all these groups. They're going to join your Patreon and forget they joined it. And then they're going to keep paying, and you're going to keep getting new customers. Like I said, they're going to get out of it in a month or less, but they will have already joined. Which
Well, I take every cancellation, and this is something else that he's like, don't take cancellations personally, but everyone is just like, I start questioning, what was the matter with the model? What was this? And it's just me, that's just how I am. And I start reflecting, okay, what do I need to do to make sure I don't lose any Patreons too. But everybody has different situations. I look back, I've joined Patreons and I loved the model, but it didn't sell. So a month later, I got rid of it, or 2 months later, or I quit carrying it for a while. So yeah, it's just it's been interesting. We've only launched it just under on the 12th will be 2 months.
Yeah.
And so it's grown exceptionally fast. So we'll see if that keeps going.
And that, for everybody that wants to join, it's Rocky Box for that one, right?
Rocky Box, yes, because I work with another designer called Box Skull, who does awesome dragons and stuff. He kind of prodded me along and helped me in the beginning, and now there's stuff that I still personally can't do. He handles, and we work hand in hand together to do each model. But he's from Peru. He doesn't speak English. And but we have a really good working relationship, and so Rocky Box is a collaboration between both of us.
That's nice. He's in Peru, so you don't have to deal with him competing at shows either. So you're good.
You'll find there's not many designers that do shows.
Yeah.
Most designers come from the animation. Box Skull came from a big animation studio in South America. Matt Myers he did Zootopia.
Really?
He was an animator on Zootopia, So most of these Cinderwings just came as a hobby. I don't know if she ever sold. Dragon's Den does sell some of the other bigger ones. Zal, I'm not sure. But yeah, I had somebody, speaking of Zal, I had somebody the other day complaining, and it's like, why don't you put out more models like Zal?
Because that's their thing. That's not your thing.
Yeah, I'm like, look, I carry Zal. I'm a Patreon of Zal. I sell Zal all day long, but mine take just a little bit longer to do than hers.
Yeah, you're not a cutesy animal design. Like, it's not like there's. Yeah. That's one thing I like about finding the different Patreons, is because you find the ones that kind of fit a certain need.
Yeah. So what your goal is and what you want to carry.
Yeah, Robert follows Kit Kiln, which makes amazing those chunkables that are super cool little characters.
Kit Kiln?
Yeah.
I don't think I'm familiar with that one.
He does.
Oh, yeah. Yes. The little Lego guys.
Yep. And this.
Yeah, I know those have been hot recently.
Yeah, there's the Venom. Yeah. He just came out with a Spider-Man.
Because they're multi-part. So
yeah,
you can build these without a AMF.
Nice.
It's always cool looking at
with the. Go ahead, James.
I was saying, it's just cool seeing what some of these people can do with the design. It's funny, with like that one there, with intellectual property type stuff, in this hobby, to see how long someone can last before someone tells them to quit making stuff. So that's interesting versus like you or Zoud, who are doing original design stuff. That is, you're good.
Yeah, Hex 3D is one of the biggest ones, and they're all intellectual. They designed it, but they're, and then people gripe when they get taken down off Etsy because they've got them, posted. Like, sell those in person. Don't post them on the internet.
These little things have been fun too. The low poly.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Kind of fun to make.
I used to do Pokemon and take them to the show, but they never quit selling. I'm just.
Yeah. But
that wasn't us, and there's some reptile shows across the country where you're told take them down, can't have them. So I was just like, oh, screw it, I'm just not gonna do them anymore. But they were good sellers.
Well, I think one thing it helps people not pass your table, which we'll get to that question in a second. I think not having some of those things causes people to stop at your table more. Because I think a lot of people see those things and they go, yeah, that's not me, I'm gonna keep going. But they walk by and they see your Bell's Phase lace monitor sitting on top of your lights, and they go, oh, that's not something people have.
Kind of like when you said you're across from the gutter guy.
Yeah.
They see a whole bunch of cosplay stuff and things like that, and they go, why is that here? It's just a reptile show. So that we try to be very. We have dragons, we have some fish and things like that, but they're all tangential to the reptile hobby, and that's what we have.
Speaking of fish, the one I haven't done yet, I really want to do the arowana that I've seen.
Who's
You haven't
arowana?
showed me this
It's
one.
it's the 2-part arowana fish that
You haven't
like
showed this
Oh,
to
really
me.
flexy.
The
with fluid in the
STL
middle.
flicks. STL flicks. Yeah,
Yeah.
they do a whole series of fish. I printed a couple of those, and it just wasn't. And like they have a chameleon that has the same type of body,
Yes.
which is what drove me to create our chameleon.
Which is awesome.
But yeah, that type of design uses so much filament.
Yeah, I just want to print arowana for myself. That's not even like for to sell. Just
Yeah, I tell you, there's another one that's kind of started that design, and it's a pangolin.
oh, that's cool.
And that print is all because it will roll up in your hand perfectly, and they got that same. Oh man, it's a bitch to print, but it's an awesome print.
So it's funny that you mentioned pangolin. So I took my daughter to the International Quilt Festival with me, not this past October, but a year ago, October.
Mhm.
And we were walking through a booth, and it was a new company that's doing fusible quilting. And basically it's laser cut fabric pieces that have
Mhm.
fusible webbing on the back that you iron down, and then you sew them down, and it's an applique, and it can create whatever design you want.
Yeah.
And so my daughter actually got a kit to do a pangolin. And the woman was like, "Do you know what this is?" And my daughter goes, "Yes, I do." And then proceeded to tell her all about them. And the lady goes, "I really thought she was going to say it was an armadillo because that's what everybody else has said." Like she was so pumped that someone knew what this animal was. It was so funny. I actually came across that kit the other day, and I was like, "We need to make this." So I set it out so that we can make it.
You can make your pangolin quilt.
I know.
It's just a armadillo.
It was apparently that's what everyone at the show had been calling it. She's like, "Nope."
So I posted 2 questions this week, and I want to go over the questions and the answers real quick, and then we can discuss them. But the first one was, do you look at / buy from vendors who are selling things besides reptiles when you go to a show? And what type of stuff do you look at or ignore? Because I'm pretty good. If you go to enough shows and you know what you're looking for, you kind of have. Now, the problem with having blinders on and passing up tables because they have this or that is sometimes you miss like
Cool stuff.
this one little thing that's on the table that you really would have liked to seen, but there's no, let's say ball pythons, right? I know I can walk past every ball python table, but I have gone back through shows sometimes and realized, oh shit, there's 90% ball pythons, but there's this one thing that I think is really cool, and it was hidden on this table with a bunch of ball pythons, and I would have just skipped it.
So you at what reptiles? What do I look for when I go to a show?
Well, what do you look at besides reptiles when you go to a show? Because I wanted to get an idea of what people
I don't look at anything besides reptiles. I make a point not to look at any other 3D printers. I don't really care what they're printing, and not that I don't care. That's what they're doing. I know what I'm doing. So what other people are doing does not affect what I'm going to do. So I make a point not to look at other 3D printers. But besides that, I look at feeders.
Yep.
Okay, who's got the dubias this weekend, or who's got the fluor flies that I need? I'll occasionally look at enclosures, but no. Normally, if I'm looking around the show, I'm looking for specific reptiles.
See, and I'm always looking. I look at reptile related books, and I look at reptile related earrings because I can't with the headphones because they like literally stab the side of my neck. But I always wear like big crazy earrings at school. And so I'm always like, James has actually been printing the earrings that he's been printing. Like I've got a couple to start wearing, and
go ahead. Hey, this little Gaboon Viper will make a nice little
that
earring.
would be so cute. Yes, but even today, like I just wore like regular teacher earrings that his mom gave me for Christmas, and it's just that's what I look at when I go to shows because I know I'm not coming home with another animal.
Let's take a look at what's on our listeners.
Go ahead.
Our buddy Jack over in the nether regions says he'll look for different tools like snake hooks, feeding tongs, and grab sticks. It's a fun way of saying grab. I've never said grab stick. That sounds dirty.
What?
Jack?
Grab? Like
long tong, like snake
tongs.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
When he says tongs, he's thinking like the feeding tongs.
Not
the long snake grabbers.
That makes sense.
Yeah, like the hemostats.
Yeah.
I would assume, yeah.
JD McLean said, books. It's always good to have several references when keeping animals. Always buying supplies as a keeper as well. Hides, heat tape, thermostats, and hemostats. I buy books. I don't read any of them, but I buy tons of books.
I was actually just looking at this book you got for Christmas.
What is that?
Cosmic Queries.
Oh, by Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, it looks pretty good actually.
Did my mom get me that?
Either my mom or your mom. It may have been my mom.
They know damn well I'm not going to read it, but that's cool.
You
read it.
I've read most of these on the shelf, so it's cool.
Well, every year with books, I literally every year I reread Stakes and Snake Hunting and Keeper in the Kept. And so those are my yearly reads. And then I have my Whirler Dixon, field guide, the original big hardbound version. And those are books I always read and look at.
I think I've read maybe 2 of my books on my bookshelf.
You've listened to me read several of these kids' books because we get them for when we go and do education programs together. And I read the book and then you do the program. So you've listened to me read them. The
most recent one I found, because we go to Half Price Books, you never know what you'll find. I found this cool, The Magnificent Book of Reptiles and Amphibians. It's this giant book. And it was, my first thing is to always see if it says poisonous or venomous, but
the illustrations are gorgeous.
Yeah, it was really cool. I'd never seen it before. So I was like, yeah, I'll get that one. So that was my last book purchase. But let's see. Our friend Megan said, aside from reptile supplies, I also look for cool reptile art or decor, books, and oddities. I ignore toys and plushes, t-shirt tables, and most of the vinyl and tumbler stuff I'm not interested in. I want unique items and books that aren't about ball pythons, not crap that's going to clutter up her house. Timothy said, besides supplies like caging and driftwood, I'll look at some oddity stuff, especially crystals, but ignore the rest and the ball pythons. Last show I went to, there was a gutter company set up, and it sucked them into a 30-minute pitch. Timothy, you got to learn to tell them, fuck off and just keep walking. You don't have to say fuck off, be nice, but just keep walking. Like they're used to being ignored. You don't have to stop. Like there's 700 people that have walked by that gutter person and ignored them. Just wave at them and keep going. Small Scales said, I literally just bought this yesterday at a show, and it's a bag with the Land Before Time on it. That's cool. Let's see. Jake Butler said, Klondike Kid Exotics specializes in all things different from exotic mammals, hedgehogs, coatimundis, kangaroos, wallabies, prairie dogs, dagoos, micro squirrels.
I was next to them in Derby, Kansas at a show last March. They had a kangaroo. That was cool.
And then taxidermy. Oh, we have our buddy John Grant, and his wife loves to look at taxidermy stuff.
Creeps me out.
They've got a whole house full of it.
Oh, it creeps me out. I hated going to the Man Museum in Montgomery.
The Montgomery Zoo has a museum.
That's all taxidermy.
It's all taxidermy. It's a weird thing to be at a zoo. It's a zoo
so
full of dead
weird.
Stuff.
It's like a little museum right next to the zoo. I only went in.
Well, the guy, I forget the guy's name. Last name was Mann, but he was a hunter, like a big time hunter. And
wasn't it James?
I don't know. And at one point, he donated everything there, and they made a museum around it. But it's.
I mean, they
stuff.
have it set up cool. It's set up in like diorama type situations.
But it is a zoo, and it's kind of weird to walk in to find all the dead animals.
Taxidermy weird. Like my dad was a hunter, and I don't recall ever having anything hanging on our walls. Like
Timothy said, yeah, taxidermy stuff is sweet, especially bad work.
Maybe
bad work is funny to laugh at, but I'm not bringing it home.
Correct.
Yeah,
I want the worst of the worst on my walls.
I get a Facebook feed that always pops up with bad taxidermy.
Yeah, Robert and I are in that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to buy bad taxidermy. I don't want anything that I killed that I pay for a taxidermy to be bad taxidermy.
That's funny. Yeah, taxidermy just weirds me out.
I don't know, that's cool. Kristen said, I straight up skip and avoid 3D printed tables. Screw you, Kristen. I'm just kidding. It's taking over the Michigan shows, and honestly, I'm super over them. I skip the tables that are all kids' toys and stuff too. I like to stop and check out tables that have reptile books, handmade items relevant to reptile keeping. I skip all the ball python and gecko tables too. So for the expos, are short and quick to get through. Now, I think when she says she skips 3D printed tables, she's not skipping Rob's table. I think people, when they think 3D printed tables, they're thinking a table full of dragons and kids' toys, not realistic reptiles.
I mean, some people, and that's just the way, but some people that are, hey, it's another 3D printed table, and then they see our green tree python sitting on a tree wrapped up like a green tree python, and that gets a few people in, that would normally skip our big 30-inch Gaboon that's natural colored,
I'm curious if anyone else feels guilty is not the right word. I don't know that bad is the right word, but I always feel uncomfortable when I stop and like really peruse a table, knowing that like I'm not going to buy anything because I don't have the money to buy anything. I just want to window shop. I always feel bad when I'm at like vendors markets or reptile shows or like the farmers markets and things like that. Cause I'm like, I'm just here to kill time and I'm not going to buy anything because I don't have the money to buy anything because I'm a teacher. Like I feel bad because I want to, like my mom, you guys did the Manville market this past weekend.
Yeah.
And my mom got like honey from somebody and
Robert got honey from the person.
She bought cookies from a teacher.
So the problem with farmers markets is now being diabetic, 90% of stuff there I can't get.
I know. But my mom was like, I wouldn't even buy this stuff at the store. She's like, I feel obligated that they're here on the weekend.
I'm poor enough to not feel obligated to buy shit.
But I do. When I go to shows, like I want to be able to support my friends and I want to be able to buy their stuff. And I don't know. I feel bad when I window shop. Like I don't feel bad if I go to Walmart and window shop or if I go to the mall and window shop. But when like the owner and creator is on the other side of the table, I feel awkward.
I don't. I know that I don't have money, and so it doesn't make me feel bad at all.
That's funny.
I mean, I can appreciate the stuff and tell them how great it is, but like if I can't afford it, I know I can't afford it. Let's see. Going through this, Kevin says the shows in Oregon are a mixture of both reptile and merchandise, so I end up looking at most of the tables. Jason Creekmore said tend to avoid the cheap knife dealers and vinyl printed stuff. They always push way too hard for a sale. Laura says I bought quite a few books at shows. I also buy feeders. It's a great place to buy feeders. Keith says anything stuffed or 3D printed I try not to even look at, but unfortunately I have an 8-year-old that wants to see it all. Christopher Osborne says plants a couple of times. I guess he looks at plants. Christina, who's I think in the chat, says when I go to an expo I take every opportunity to get supplies, specifically cork rounds. If I see things that might catch my or husband's eye when it comes too much from someone I believe she had a stroke when she typed this. When it comes from someone we support, we might buy it depending on the situation. And then Charlie Brown just wrote the word hiss. I got nothing. I don't know. I think he had a stroke as well at the end there. Walking through a show, I normally pass up on ball pythons, crested geckos, vinyl printed stuff, and I have friends that print that stuff. It's not for me.
I can make it myself.
And I tend to also pass by reseller tables for the most part, like the person that has 35 different species on their table, all in deli cups. I don't even stop there because I know there's no chance that I'm touching anything on that table usually. So I can make it through a show pretty quick. But again, doing that, I have missed some things here or there doing that. It does happen. Darren says the Tegu, the Monitor, and the Gaboon are amazing, which is why you need to get them, Darren. You only have 2 actual snakes, so you could fill your house with 3D printed reptiles. Weird ass person with only 2 reptiles. So odd. Nakia says she always takes cards thinking I'm just going to look on their website later, but then forgets. And then you end up with a giant stack of business cards. Although I know Robert used to have the issue where kids run around collecting cards, and he runs out of cards fast because kids are just grabbing cards.
Yep.
So you got to keep them.
Are like that's like a dead thing, man. They don't even. When's the last time you were like, oh man, I need to order a whatever? Let me go look through my stack of business cards.
Yeah, I just
which is funny though, because like we've done shows lately, and people are like, do you have a business card? I'm like, here's my Facebook. Just follow me on Facebook. It's probably easier.
Right. Yeah. I just Google it.
I think
there's
QR codes are probably the best way to go. Just have them scan a QR code and take them, and they can.
There's a shop that I like to go to on Harwin, and Joe calls it the stuff store.
The stuff store.
Because they have like earrings and headbands and accessories. I can never remember what it's called because there's like It's actually SW Trading House, I think is what it is, or trading something. And they're closed on Thursdays.
They are closed on Thursdays. Found that out. Didn't know any business closed on Thursdays, the most random day of the week to close. But they are closed on a Thursday.
But I can never remember. And so I have to Google search like keywords to figure out, and the location to figure out which business I'm looking for, because I don't go that often because it's dangerous to my budget. But yeah, like you can literally Google anything. Like you could probably type in Manville Market 3D printed stuff and find you guys from this past weekend.
Google's a great place. I do need to do still one idea from Rob. That, I mean, it's not the only idea, but I really need to 3D print my price tags, because I'm tired of printing on paper my price tags, because I end up throwing them away.
I think that's the only thing I've ever printed for Maker World.
They're
on Maker World.
Yeah, I saw them, and I just haven't. Every time I'm like, I need to do this, and I'm like, well, I got to print this instead.
I was going to say, you've been printing. You only have the one printer, so you've been printing stuff to sell the same.
But I will tell you that the ones that I printed, I still had to glue together because people knock them over and then they fall out. So we glued them finally before our last set of shows in December, and so that they're set in stone.
I may print a QR code, big QR code that people can scan that would take them to like my Facebook. Put that on the table, because I just can't picture. I keep saying I'm going to get business cards, but I know I'm not going to get business cards.
No, my business cards now have QR codes on them. I mean, it's so I can still give it to them. But yeah, I mean, just QR codes if they're actually interested. A QR code, and they can go to your Facebook and like you. They're going to at least see you again. A business card's going to get thrown away or left on the table. So yeah, QR codes are definitely the way to go.
All right, so I have one other question that we posted this week, and this one was more targeted straight at 3D printing. The other one was kind of targeted just so I knew people were going to say they skipped 3D printed tables. I knew they were going to say it, but I was surprised how many people didn't. This one is, when purchasing 3D printed items, what do you look for, fun or functionality, and what are some 3D printed items you've bought?
That's such a great question.
We get it. You make me come up with it.
Look, it is not every day that you ask in our group chat.
I know.
I need a question, and both of us come up with a kick-ass question.
It was great. I didn't have to make a question this week.
Within a span of like wonderful. 5 minutes. Can I just acknowledge that?
I appreciate both of you this week.
It never happens.
That was great.
That's our question for the whole year.
Took something off my plate. Our buddy Sajak said both, but most of the time I will look at how I can print them myself. That may be true, Jack, but you've been texting us. I know that your printer's been driving you nuts and you haven't bought a new one yet. So you just need to buy a new printer.
He's talking about it.
He got spoiled while he was here in America visiting me and Robert, and saw both of our printers. He's like, yeah, I need to buy a new printer. So get a new printer, Jack. Christina says, I like more functional things just because I don't spend hardly any money on knickknacks. Sometimes they are given to us, which I thoroughly enjoy. BMC Bioscience wrote, it's a whole novel. I'm not reading that whole thing, but it was about printing 3D things for herpetoculture, and then it gets into like some technical stuff. Jason Creedmore said, a little bit of both. I got an axolotl for my wife, and I've gotten hides for my pets. I do print and sell hides. I like doing that because, it's funny. It's many people that got printers and started, we've done reptile shows, and some people that sell reptiles started doing some other sort of side hobby to sell at shows too. And as people that got printers, I'm like, why aren't more people printing reptile stuff? Like, I get your table, Rob. I'm not expecting to walk by your table and find functional reptile stuff. That's not your dynamic at your table. But when I go by a table of someone who sells reptiles, and then the other table is nothing but trinkets and dragons, I'm like, why aren't you selling something that you can sell with that reptile? Like,
well, yeah, I do. There's a handful of functional items that we do, but I don't put them on our table. Other vendors have come to me and said, yeah, I'm not going to put them on my table. You can sell. I print them for them. Yeah. But that fits their table. It doesn't fit my table. And when I did have them, they get lost in everything else, and it's, not worth it. So yeah, you got to have a vision, and you walk by these tables that have 3D printed stuff here, and it's just, it's just a hodgepodge of stuff, and so, yeah. But functional stuff, I don't want to deal with, and people buy it.
And I said, so like, I'm selling baby Samboas. Well, I also sell a small hide that you can put in your baby Samboa's cage, and I can sell both of them together. Or like I printed those 3D printed, the Fisher Price turtle sandboxes.
Those are so fun.
I printed some smaller versions that I can put sand in. That if you have Samboas, you can put them in, and they bury down in it.
Oh, it's
fun
to watch them.
And like these things can be sold together. Why?
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense to have the printer and then not sell stuff that also goes with what else you're selling. I guess that's the retail side of me, because I used to work in retail. Like, you sell this and then you sell this with it. It doesn't make sense not to do that. But keep not doing it, people. Feel free. That way I can sell more hides. Kristen said purchase for her baby tree boas, which I do want to work on some perch designs for tubs and so I know there's another guy that does a lot of those, and I don't want to rip off his design, so that's not what I want to do. But I do want to work on some tub type things, because I have a lot of snakes in tubs, and I would like to be able to add some enrichment type things to my tubs. Although I have mostly Samboas, and there's not really enrichment for a Samboa. It's a lump.
Not going to use the perch.
I know someone out there's gonna be like, well, I've heard stories of them being arboreal. Shut up. It's a Samboa. I've watched them move around. They're stupid. They fall off the ground. They are just dumb. But I love all of them. But I'm not giving them a perch. Chris Burns says, I haven't bought anything, but I would say functionality. I love seeing some of the reptile related things that people have made, like perches, hides, bowl holders, and etc. Yeah, I think it's just weird to me that more people haven't done functional reptile stuff at reptile shows. And I guess it's part of we see it all the time, people chasing what other people are doing instead of trying to do their own thing, which I think that's why I like your designs that you have done, because yes, you did the stuff that we talked about earlier, that is stuff that is licensed from other people, but then you did your own thing, because both of them will sell, and it makes no sense to not do your own thing if you can do your own thing. So yeah, that's interesting. I would like to see more functional 3D printed stuff at shows. I don't have a problem. My problem is, and I've said this kind of with some of the shows that you're at, I don't see the point of selling 3D printed animals and trinkets when you're at a show. And it's not like to blow smoke up your own ass because you're here on the show. And I've said this to Robert before. Like, I'm not going to sell a 3D printed snake when Raki-Taki's got a table there, because my snake's it's not even close.
Yeah.
And it makes no sense to me to watch someone watch 5 other tables when you're set up full table, full display. Also try to sell little trinket lizards. Like you said, the thing that shows up on the first part of Maker World, the first page of Maker World.
And I'll be honest, one of the reasons that I was so not really against you getting a 3D printer, but I didn't want it to look cheap.
Yeah, no, I'd refuse.
And I should have known that the quality of things that you put out has never been cheap. So, I mean, like there's like a little tiny flaw in like 5 of the cardinal swings. And he's like, these 5 can just go in your treasure box at school and I'll print you more. I'm like, it is totally fine. I'm sending it to a 4-year-old. He doesn't care. Like, no, I can keep them.
That has been one thing
and he's like, absolutely not. This is not perfect.
That has been one thing I've run into. Like, any of the small kind of flexi animals that have those midsections would have small amount of surface area on the bottom. You know, halfway through the print, they will lose, and you come in the top half that it's all screwed up. And it took me like, I don't know, 700 reindeer at Christmas time to realize that's what was happening. I was like, oh, okay, these need a brim. Got it. I got to put a brim on this section of the body for this design. Same thing happened with those little cardinals. They had very little attached to the plate for the wing, and a couple of them broke loose, and you can see where it messed up on top of it as it was trying to print.
Yeah.
Now you want a secret to fix that? I'm sure you've seen them, because everybody's gotten the BICU frostbite or whatever those
the
plates
blue ones. Yeah,
the blue ones. I don't trust those China. About 9 months ago, Sliceworks sent me a sample of their version. Of course, it's more expensive. And I was like, yeah, I'll try it. And damned if it didn't hold everything.
really.
At 45 degrees instead of 65.
Oh, wow.
So I'm saving on electricity. And now, whereas, you know, a handful of things coming loose a week or whatever, and that's running at 70 printers, 3 times a day, it's almost non-existent. And they've now lasted me 8 months and not having to look at replacing them. The only time I have to replace them is when I screw up and leave a brim on, because you can't get the brim off.
Oh yeah, 'cause it's too thin.
Itch to get off of it. And my shop during the summer quit getting so hot. And those I like the slice. I don't know. I've never tried the Big Q ones, but the Slice Works ones are a.
So it's this black one.
game
It's like
changer.
$37.99.
Yeah, it should be either dipped or something like that. Is it called dipped or something?
I don't. It says PLA at 35 degrees Celsius.
Yeah,
at 45.
Yeah.
No
So
glue, no hairspray.
no glue, no hairspray, no wiping it down with acetone. You don't have. I've maybe washed them now once every month and a half. When I do finally lose a print on it, I'll wipe it down with water, and it's good to go.
Is it a textured plate like the one that comes with the bamboo?
Not as textured. You still
Gotcha.
does have texture. It's not a smooth plate. It still does have a little bit of texture to it, but not as heavy as a texture.
Have you found a smooth plate that works well long term?
Prusa's satin sheet.
Gotcha. So I thought about getting one just for here or there when I do want a smooth surface on one side. Like earrings would be one.
I don't know if this shows. Let's see if I can.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see a little bit. That's from that plate.
Okay.
It's just a little bit. But yeah, that plate has been a game changer. Any of the Zals, I no longer have to put brims on.
That's awesome.
Even the little duck. I printed some ducks for my sister to take that she did a local art show. No brims on those, none on the dinosaurs or anything like that. And that's at 45 degrees.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into getting this then. I mean, I like the texture plate that comes with it, but there are issues here or there where I've lost. You know, I did start using hairspray, cheap ass Aquanet, which has fixed a lot of issues for me.
Aquanet's the shit. What are you talking about?
Aquanet is great.
My UPS man used to laugh at me every time he'd deliver me my big box of Aquanet, 24 cans.
Well, it's funny. I went to HEB to buy some, and I'm looking, and Katie comes. She goes, "What?" I'm like, "I'm looking up and down the hairspray aisle. I can't find it." And she goes, "It's over here." Because I was looking at like a decent hairspray. I had to go
you gotta go look at the cheap stuff.
The cheap stuff. I was like, "Oh, there."
That's what we would buy for all the plays at school whenever we would do theater.
Yeah.
It was cheap and it worked and it held everybody's curls. So
yeah,
that's what we always got.
But yeah, I no longer have to use the hairspray. I never longer have to really wash them all that often, and I don't have to use as much electricity and the heat. So if you got an enclosed bamboo, a bamboo a P1S, you can close the door on it then, because you're not going to overheat and get heat creep. And that plate is one of the game changers, I think.
So here's a question I have for you, because I don't ever print anything with the door open, and I see people all the time talking about, especially with PLA, having to keep the door, keeping it vented, and I never do.
Yeah.
And I don't know if maybe I could have better prints if I do, but what is the purpose behind that?
Because as it gets hot, PLA's glass temperature where it gets soft is really low. Gotcha. And if you build up heat in there, what happens is the PLA gets soft in the gears of the extruder.
Gotcha.
And when it gets soft in the gear of the extruders, it starts gumming up the extruder, and then you get a clog. And that's called heat creep. And that's something I tell people with 3D printing is, look, every printer, individual machine printer, every person printer, every environment is different. Just because something works for me does not necessarily mean it's going to work for you. That's why it's important not to just say, hey, I'm going to hit, like you see people nowadays don't even have a computer. They're just hitting their app, Yeah. And I mean, that's why it's important to know what you're doing, and then not blame the designer when, it's just did you tune your filament? No. Well, okay. What's your flow rate? I don't know. Well, that might be the issue.
Or not knowing how many walls is it? How much was your infill? What infill did you use?
Yeah. And I mean, that's the first thing you start learning is infill and walls, and then, flow rate and stuff like that. And, everybody's different. And just because you have a bamboo doesn't mean this machine's going to act the same way as this machine. Some of for example, on the Gaboon Vipers where the fangs fold down, some of mine print where the fangs are loose. Okay. Yeah. where they'll just kind of like that big one, they'll kind of fold down. Some of them are tight. And I'm not going to figure out, it doesn't matter. They fit. Some people want them to, when the mouth opens, the fangs fall down. Some people want them to stay out. People want them both ways. And, I get people complain, well, are these fangs not working because they fall? And then in the afternoon, I get, oh, the fangs are so tight. I wanted them to fall down. You get people want them both ways. But every printer, every person, everybody, it's going to be a little bit different.
Yeah. So I had a question and I completely forgot it. God damn it. It was a good one. It was it was something I needed to know about 3D printing, and now I don't know. So I've had only one issue watching people with filament. So like it's interesting watching people get like cheap filament, and you wonder, even my dad when he's visiting, is there really a difference between cheap filament and more expensive filament? I did get one filament from a brand that I've liked everything else, and I've been told even by people that know them that they're getting rid of that filament. And like, I used it for that dragon. It was a white silk, and it was the worst thing I've used in my entire life. Like it shedded inside of my AMS. I've got little flakes of white all over, and it's the only time twice it has said that I had a clog when I didn't. There was no clog in there. I just had to go through and like retry loading filament in. I'm about to throw away an entire spool.
What happens is tolerances are off. And so if the filament is not 1.75, and normally give or take 0.2 millimeters is fine. But if it gets up to 1.8, it jams the extruder and it's too thick. If it gets too small, down below 1.7 millimeters, the teeth don't touch it enough to grab it. And that's a pretty common occurrence. Not like real common, but one out of every 60, 70 spools or something like that are like that. And they'll just have these dead spots or, that are too small or, or bottlenecks that are too big. And that will cause that where your print just stops midway, but it's not really clogged. You can start pushing it through and feeding it. That's the filament normally being out of spec.
Gotcha. I think my nozzle may be messed up now, because now it will have an issue where when it goes to purge, instead of just all falling down in a straight line, it kind of like loops up in the air and then flips over the edge of that the old poop chute on the back of it. For those who don't know, the waste coming out of your printer is called poop. It's so much fun to make poop jokes when you're printing.
Yeah.
But it flips over the edge of the little poop chute and it gets stuck on the edge there, and it builds up instead of just falling straight down into the line.
So 9 times out of 10, that's going to be a partial clog in there.
Gotcha. And it came with two nozzles. I thought about taking this one off, putting the other one on it.
Yeah, and then get yourself some nylon. So they call it cleaning. On Amazon, you can get cleaning filament.
Gotcha.
Get some nylon, and whenever it's not coming out straight, run a little bit of that nylon through, and then you'll do a cold pull with it, and it holds on to all that old PLA, and you'll pull all that stuff out.
Gotcha.
It's really good to clean your nozzles with. But if it's not coming straight out, most likely there's just a little bit of something in there that's making it come out a little crooked.
Gotcha. Yeah, because my prints are fine. It's just whenever it purges, I end up with a clump of it there on the chute, and then it kind of builds up and goes all over my tray. And
like I said, 9 times out of 10, but whenever I see it not coming up, I do a cold pull and a cleaning on them. Most of the time, unless you're running abrasives, you're not going to have to change the nozzles.
Yeah,
very often.
And it was funny earlier you talked about everybody you see people start sending files from their phones and not using computers. Robert and I talked about that at Christmas time, because you saw all these people getting these printers at Christmas, and then immediately you saw all these people complaining about, why doesn't it do this? Why doesn't it do that? And I'm like, I bet they have not even opened a computer to try and figure out anything on there.
Yeah, I've seen a couple today. Like, we got it and we can't print anything. Do we need to get a computer? Or, we want to print something else besides what's on the app. And I'm like, yeah, you gotta actually learn what you're doing there, and or not even really learn too much, just the bare basics.
Just use the right equipment.
Yeah.
Well, it's why it's funny watching, especially as someone who has a multicolor, watching people when they first got the printer and they printed some simple little thing, one of them on a tray, and they show you this pile of waste. Like, why do I have all this waste? How can I stop this? I'm like, have you not watch a YouTube video. Just watch a YouTube video on this. There's about 1 million of them explaining why that happens. Printing in multiple colors, guys. Come on, it's
I don't nozzle.
but
Unless you just want it muddy brown, then we can get rid of that waste if we just want a muddy brown color.
yeah, I've enjoyed making little infinity cubes from cutting. You cut down waste, you still end up spinning filament
Purge.
on whatever.
You still got purge, yeah.
But making little infinity cubes, because I can sell an infinity cube on my table for like $4.
Yeah.
And then it's multicolored because it just used part of that to infill and all that into the cube.
I don't do all that. I mean, on the bamboos, I end up with this, and you know what?
Oh yeah,
half the people will pick this one up because they like its uniqueness. So I just purge into the same object and put them out there.
I've done that. So I did that with a little like Christmas skeleton that I got, and it like ended up looking like a peppermint skeleton because it was just like these red and white lines through it and had these red and white eyes. It's like, it actually looks cooler than the actual way it's supposed to look.
Yep.
Robert, you got any 3D printing questions?
No, not really. I think you've asked all of them.
I'm just waiting for my nutcrackers to finish printing because they'll be done at like 3 a.m. I'm not staying up, Katie.
I've got a 200% Baby Yoda printing.
Is it like a low poly one or like a...
No, that one I always do, that same one.
Oh, okay.
But 200%.
You mean Grogu, not Baby Yoda?
Whatever.
I'm just saying it's not Baby Yoda.
No, I meant what I said.
Oh, so Rob, what's in the future? What's down the pipe that you got going on for Raki-Taki? Just taking everybody's money and staying home and not having to go anywhere?
No, providing them unique gifts. But no, starting off this year, I go to Pomona this weekend. Then I am where's the Herc show?
Conroe?
Before Conroe.
Are you in Oklahoma?
Longview. So I'm in there, Longview, then Conroe, then I'm in Pasadena with you. My guy's doing Corpus.
I saw your name.
You are going to be the
I
one
saw
there.
your business name on there, but I didn't know if it was going to be you or not.
Yeah, no, I'm going to be doing that one, or it might be my wife. I'm not sure, because her sister lives in Pasadena. He's doing that. Then in February, I think I only have West Palm Beach, Florida, and Atlanta, Bob Vu's show. And I don't know. I'm Salt Lake City somewhere in there. And we'll be at all the Herc shows, either me or Brandon. But me trying to get the file side of it and let other people enjoy the prints, because I've enjoyed seeing, like you said, seeing them now. I'll be scrolling through Facebook and seeing somebody, talking about our prints or, posting it. And, I've gotten a lot of enjoyment out of that. As much as selling one to somebody, that had never seen a 3D printed reptile like we create.
Yeah, that's got to be cool watching how many of yours pop up now in the groups.
Oh yeah, I love seeing it. It's cool. The first time I saw somebody else at a show with our items, that was cool as well. But
part of you had to be like, oh, how am I gonna? Now I got to compete against myself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's one thing. I got to see how that goes. But I mean, they sold a couple of them. We sold our. I mean, we were down a little bit, but not too much. Not anything to do it. But it was cool seeing theirs. They use different colors than I do. They use more pastel rainbows. They're more. Yeah. I don't like using the word toys with 3D printed stuff. But they call theirs toys, and they're making them more for kids. I'm making them more for kids buy them, but more of a decorative art type item.
Has anybody painted the Gaboon as a rhino viper yet?
Well, I just hold on. We got something. I got something in the works. I got to get the nose changed. The rhino doesn't have the nice two clean horns. It's got more of a spiky. Yeah. But yeah, there's nobody's done it yet. That's going to be a bitch of a paint job. It's going to take me probably a couple days. But yeah, that's in the pipeline.
I do like your use of the glass eyes for a lot of your stuff.
Mhm.
It gives it a really cool, realistic look versus just plain black eye.
I didn't start it. I got the idea from a guy called El Imagina, and he does the feather dragon that we do, that
Yeah.
kind of lights. He does very kind of like us, more intricate, delicate designs. And he used the glass eyes on his dragons. So we started utilizing them in the snakes, and then all of a sudden everybody's utilizing them, everywhere.
Yeah.
He was the first one. I took the idea of the glass eyes from him for the bush viper, and now I showed you earlier, we're just utilizing it in the lizards now too. So
it's funny. Like I said, there's a lot of crossover between hobbies. There's in reptile keeping, it's not as prevalent as it used to be, but there's a lot of gatekeeping here and there. People not wanting to share ideas and this and that. And it's funny seeing it here or there in the 3D printing world. I saw one in someone's Patreon. Again, this is someone's Patreon that everyone in that Patreon subscribes to, and we all print their stuff. And this person thought about they're putting magnets, and they're making magnets out of the animals, and they posted it, and people were like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna do that." And they immediately took their comment down off Patreon and started yelling at everybody for copying their ideas. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're literally just putting magnets on someone else's design, and you're not the first one to turn a thing into a magnet. But they're like, you can't see this. I don't want you to see this. I don't want you to do what I'm doing. It's not how this is supposed to work.
Well, yeah, I see both sides of it. But my point is, or my thought of it is if they didn't want other people to copy it, don't fucking post it.
Right.
The reason you posted it was to get your likes and mentions.
Yes.
Right.
Otherwise there was no other reason to post it. So don't get butthurt when people say, "Hey, good idea, I'm going to copy it."
Yeah.
It's kind of like my herping world. I don't, with Alterna hunting, there are people who are in it for the likes, and they post every snake, and all of a sudden it's flooded with people, every snake they find, and they're people like we don't post, because we enjoy being out there by ourselves, hunting, looking for these snakes. It's not about the kudos and the likes, but if that person posted it, what did they expect?
So, Rob, this summer, James has been here almost 4 years now, and still has not seen an Atrox in the wild.
Yeah.
As simple as that seems to be, we have not had the luck of finding one. So,
and it's not for lack of trying.
We have to come out west and find.
Well, come out here. We'll find you some lepidus. We'll find you some blacktail rattlesnakes, some Mojaves, maybe a prairie. We can get you in a day. We can get you 4 different species of rattlesnakes.
I'd love to find a lepidus. That's on my bucket list because that's my favorite snake.
Yeah. I'm gonna paint the clob as a lep, but I'm gonna get people bitching about the print time on that one.
Yeah, I can imagine the color changes you're gonna need on that.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I've told Katie, at some point I want to get a second machine so that I can have one machine doing 2-day prints and not lose out on doing, smaller prints on another machine.
Yeah.
Because there's some things like the Nutcracker. I wanted to print a full size Mardi Gras colored Nutcracker that I had painted in bamboo, and I put it in there, and it's like 2 days. I'm like, ooh, I don't have 2 days right now to put towards this Nutcracker.
Yep.
And then the other thing that I don't think people that outside of this understand is I get very hour 16, 17 into a print like that. I'm like, please don't mess up. Please don't mess up. Please don't mess up. I get very nervous that it's going to mess up somewhere way into a print. And I'm going to start all because it's done it.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, I printed that. So I printed that dragon. I had to print it twice. The second time I printed it, one gumdrop on the leg. Don't know why, but messed up. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me on this entire thing that I'm printing for someone that is paying me for it. But I realized I could print just the leg. In bamboo, I could go through, I could cut away all the parts and print just the leg and the connection part. So I did it, cut off the old one, glued on the new one, and you can't tell. And I was like, sweet, this worked. I don't have to go back and do 35 hours of printing this dragon.
Yep. You can cut those joints in the slicer and re-glue them.
Yes, it was great. So, all right. We've talked about a ton of 3D printing, and I don't think we've actually eaten dinner. So we probably need to go eat dinner.
I'm starving.
But I'm looking forward. I'll see you at Conroe, and then
Yeah,
The
Conroe,
next
and then
weekend
Yeah.
in
in
Pasadena.
Pasadena. Yeah.
Possibly. Yeah.
that show I was gonna bring not a ton, I was gonna bring maybe some earrings, but I didn't put on my thing that I'm bringing 3D, so I need to email and be like, hey, can I? Because I know sometimes they're very anal about what you have on your table at that
Mhm.
show.
Yeah.
Well,
like I
but I
told
did-
you, they literally came around and had my application, like the list of the things, and made sure what I had on my table was what I had on my application.
Well, that's why when I saw Rob's name on the list, it's like, all right, well, I'm not gonna try to bring any snakes or dragon eggs or any of that stuff. Well, I think there are some ball pythons I'm trying to paint right now, and I'm gonna see how they come out when I print.
Yeah, and that's I just picked that one because I'm down to not doing Repticon and show me shows too much.
Yeah.
I had a credit that I had to use, and I was like,
where
where am I going to use the credit?
I've got 2 racks full of babies that I have to sell, so
You know
what?
I need to do
I
that
still
show.
have a credit with Repticon too, because I had to cancel the last show last minute on an emergency, and they gave me a credit. I still have a credit with Repticon.
Yeah, no, that's like, okay, I got the email for that one. I'm like, okay, which I've never done really well at their Dallas show, and I'm not traveling a long way for, there's
This
only
one
a few
actually
shows.
tends to have a decent crowd for what it is.
I've done it. I've done Pasadena once or twice, and haven't done that. I mean, comparatively, that I haven't done bad or anything.
Yeah.
Haven't done that well at it, but like I said, it's if my wife goes and does it, it's her sister's right there. She can visit her sister, and kind of made that easy.
Yeah. Well, and having the credit saves you some money there too.
Yeah,
That show's been in the same building for like 20 years, so people know that show really.
The first time when I lived in Houston, I went, and it was like in the front, nicer building. The last time I vended there, it was in the back, kind of metal building.
That's where
it's been in that back one for quite a while.
Okay.
Because the gun show I know is in the front, nice one.
Yeah.
But
I'll bet there'll be a gun show that weekend too.
Oh, that's always good.
Yeah,
always gets people in, because I mean that's what we depend on is, the shows we do the best at are the promoters to get families in there, and that tends to be our really, really, really good shows.
Well, and you fall into that category. I always say the people that have non-animals will do well at shows because people don't want to buy an animal, but they'll spend $10 on a whatever off the table, right?
Yeah.
We took Jack to the gun show when he was here in November, and they had one person doing 3D printing, and it was all Flexi Factory stuff, every bit of it. I would love to do some gun related stuff, which I have several things I made for myself, and try one of the gun shows and see how it goes.
My brother and sister did my brother-in-law and sister did the local gun show here, but just with the typical, stuff, and they killed it for a town of 6,000 people gun show.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
All those kids are going to want something, and they're not getting guns. So
yeah. So
I want to print some of those moving part gun models, like the replicas, but they have the moving parts and all. I think those would be cool for people to have. Just if they have the real one, here's a cool replica of one. But it is amazing. I'm amazed every day when I see people print on a 3D printer nowadays.
Oh yeah.
Well, like Robert said to me the other day, they're printing a Starbucks in wherever with a 3D printer.
In Marfa, they just printed a whole subdivision, basically, houses that are 2.8 million each.
Jesus Christ!
Yeah, yeah, a whole basically ritzy subdivision in Marfa, Texas, that's 3D printed, that are all over $2 million each.
What?
So yeah,
so
there's a hotel there
if you want to be in construction, what?
There's a hotel in Marfa too that they 3D printed.
Well, I think the subdivision is on the grounds of the El Cosmico, which is kind of the touristy. It's not really a hotel. It's a more glamping type thing. But that's where they built these houses around, is at El Cosmico. And so sure, that's the same one. But I mean, rockets have 3D printed parts.
I'm looking at it now. It looks awesome.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, it's going to be to do construction. You're going to just need to be an engineer that can run a 3D printer.
Run G if you G
Oh yeah,
code. G code.
Yeah.
That's why I used it. Learning G code. You can now I have a CNC machine, which I know Robert's familiar with.
Yeah.
That I'm having difficult time with it because I'm trying to do 3D carvings with it, and it's just blowing my mind working down instead of up. So I cannot wrap my head
if
around
you
it.
need help, man, reach out to me. I've done a ton of programming for 3D CNC stuff.
Yeah. So I can get it, and I've made the models, and I'm getting it, understanding it's the what I'm having a problem with.
Yeah, because
Especially
you're
when
working.
Yeah,
completely
I'm
opposite.
thinking, okay, I want to build. Okay, so I have a green tree python model, and I've got it centered, and I want to make this frame. Well, okay, here instead of coming up, I got to come down from my top, this, and then this. I keep wanting to go down further when I need to stay up higher. It's weird working the opposite direction.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's like if I'm doing work on the CNC and I need to use VCarve, and then I got to switch over to Lightburn to do the laser because that's a completely different. But
I know.
It's all
I've
kind
got
of the
the
same
laser.
idea, and then I switch over to Orca for my slicer, and yeah, it's. I have to remember where I'm at sometimes.
Yeah, it is because I use Lightburn. I use Aspire. I use Aspire,
Which is
the
same
more,
company.
same company, just a little more 3D stuff in there, which I've of course never use. But I mean, to actual design, because I'm not trying to start designing in there.
No.
But yeah, and then I use Orca or Prusa Slicer.
And then I use Bamboo Slicer, which is basically Orca.
Which are both basically Prusa.
Yeah.
Which are basically Simplify 3D. they're all forks of the same thing.
Yep.
But Timothy, yes, 3D printed houses. It's crazy to watch. If you can find videos of them 3D printing buildings, it's very interesting to watch them do that stuff.
Yeah, they're not using plastic; they're using cement.
Imagine a PLA house in the middle of West Texas.
Yeah, it wouldn't last long.
All right. If people want to reach out to you, Rob, if they want to check out your Patreon or your Mini Factory, any of that stuff, how can they find you?
Okay, it is Raki RAKI-BOX. That is the file side. That's Patreon if you got a 3D printer, or if you're familiar with Colts 3D or the file sites, not the free file sites, but Colts 3D. Or
things.
No, I never liked things as a printer. And
it's a weird one to figure out when you search things because it goes from other websites to it. It's I don't know.
Yeah, eventually we'll get up on things, but with Patreon and my Mini Factory Tribes, which is my favorite, is where we are. Now for the 3D printed stuff, I will soon have up on the Raki-Taki website where you can go locally to herp shows and get some of our models from our licensed producers. But you can find us at most big reptile shows in the South. I know somebody was from Oregon. I haven't traveled that far, but from Sacramento over to Atlanta, down to West Palm Beach, we do most of the big shows and then all the herp shows.
One thing I meant to ask you, the name Raki-Taki comes from what?
When I was starting this, I was driving back from school and I'm trying to come up with a name. My initials are RAK, Rock. And so my wife's initials are TAK for Talk. And so I was just driving, thinking, and just kind of the name Raki-Taki just kind of popped into the head. And I did a big Google search to make sure that didn't mean anything, or I didn't find many except people out there. But yeah, that's just basically my wife's and my initials, and then with the little E, and then they just had a kind of a tiki vibe to it to me. So I used the tiki guy for the logo, and that's how the name was born.
I just pulled a piece off the machine that just finished its ABS. and I forgot how hot it was going to be.
I couldn't be in the same room if ABS was printing.
Really?
I am sensitive to that smell. Oh, it turns my stomach.
I'm gonna try it at some point, and it's in Katie's craft area, so we're gonna see how she does with it, if I can do it or not.
I'm pretty sensitive to smells, so
yeah, I can't. No, I accidentally ordered some peak ABS instead of PLA, and I was printing it, wondering why the fuck it wasn't sticking to my plate before I realized it was ABS, and I never smelt that one. So I don't know.
Robert said there's not a smell with his.
Maybe all the other microplastics I've breathed in have, kind of shot my sense of smell.
I only print it on my machine that has the enclosure with the filters. I don't do it on my other two that are open machines.
I was printing on an A1, so that's why I don't know why I wasn't smelling it when I realized it was ABS.
That's crazy. I've gotten one roll. I need to try
how big the head is, James.
Oh my gosh.
Jeez. Yeah, see, that would take me forever to print because I had to print it in one thing, and those eyes would take forever for me to go back and forth through color changes.
Yeah, I just printed the eyes on the other machine, and it took 7 minutes for the eyes. So
that's how I've tried to do some things lately. I've tried to do the eyes separate instead of just printing them in there. But for some things, I like it to be on, like the nutcrackers, they have to be the way they are. But anyways, Rob, hang out for a second. It was great having you on. Everybody else, we will be back next week with someone. I haven't figured that part out yet, but we'll be back with someone next week.
I won't be, but you will be. We have Girl Scouts.
God, kids ruin everything. Nakia says she's getting the green tree python next. You should. Or the horn lizard.
No. She said the horn lizard was
back in Rosenberg this year. So
we won't be because we'll be at a wedding.
It'll be fun.
And then we'll also have a new one. Let's see, we're gonna have since last Rosenberg, we got an alligator. I don't think I had the chameleon in Rosenberg, the panther chameleon.
I would have remembered that one.
And then should have a tokay gecko by then, and then a few other surprises, smaller surprises.
You just need to build like a rat trap contraption in the mouth of the tokay, so that when it closes down on your finger, it hurts like a real one.
The Imagina ones, they do have you never seen those?
No.
They have a compliant, which is a 3D printed spring in the mouth. And
really?
That's already been done. I'm not even about to try that. Screw that. No.
You just need 3D printed tokays need to be just as mean as actual tokays.
But I know my partner Box Skull, he does a biting T-Rex that's not quite as fancy, because like this is a mouse trap where the mouth props open and you hit the tongue and it snaps down. Yikes. But he does have a dinosaur that bites. Now you have to open it, it doesn't stay open and then it bites down. But yeah, that might be.
Seems like a problem waiting to happen with a child.
I'm not worried about problems with children anymore. My kids are almost grown. I'm not teaching anymore.
Now that you said that, but a Raki-Taki alligator snapping turtle would be cool.
Yeah,
that's down the road, because I have not figured out how to improve on 3D Brothers snapping turtle.
Yeah,
and if I can't improve on it, I'm just not improve on it, because I mean there's not improving on Matt Myers. We're just different than Matt Myers, but that realistic snapping turtle from 3D Brothers is I don't know how I can make it ours, really, because his is so good. So yeah, I don't know how quick. I think I'm going to try a sea turtle. I'm worried about turtles. Turtles are going to be hard to make it, unless a simple turtle is easy. The realistic turtle is a little bit more difficult.
I'm trying to find snapping turtle ones online now. I do like Matt Meyer. The tardigrade is like one of my favorite ones.
Yeah. Is that who you got the tardigrade from?
Yeah.
Yeah, he does, because we carry Matt Myers right alongside ours. For the people that want the cartoony, big eyes, those cannot be beat.
Yeah. All right. Well, reptile lights went out. It's time to go.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everybody. We will see y'all next week. Hang out just for a second, Rob, while we log off, and good night, everybody.
Have a good one.